Those of you who attend my classes frequently are aware that I follow and talk about the moon a lot. We manifest with a new moon. We just did this. I had a class on the 27th of April, which was a new moon manifestation class in Taurus. And what happens every month, typically, is there's a new moon and there's a full moon, and it's in the opposite sign. So Taurus and Scorpio are sister signs. So they're on a 6-month cycle, kind of in opposition to each other. Looking at the Scorpio full moon, we would look approximately 6 months ago for the Scorpio new moon, because we would have planted seeds of something to manifest, maybe related specifically to the Scorpio area of our chart. That gives us the opportunity to reflect. And the big thing with full moons is they're all about the culmination period. So something being achieved, something is manifested, and expressing gratitude. So that's really one of the main rituals that you can do on a Scorpio moon. In a Scorpio full moon in particular, like full moons are known in the canon for heightened intuition. So wanting to really take it easy on a full moon because there's a lot of energy. You may have amplified dreams. And for Scorpio in particular, it's a very, very intuitive sign. So there can be a lot that gets kicked up on a full moon, and especially in an intuitive full moon, such as Scorpio. So I will put the details in the chat. The Scorpio full moon is happening, based on my time zone, on the 12th, which is Monday at 12:56 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's at 22 degrees. The new moon in Scorpio, where we're having the closure period for, was on November 1st of last year, 8:47 a.m. Eastern Time at 9 degrees. So you can look back. So if you want to do any sort of ritual on this full moon, the 12th, or whichever day it falls on for you, then what you can do is just sit and maybe go on your calendar, your phone, your email, and you can check for November 1st of 2024. Give or take, unless it, depending on your time zone, maybe it was on Halloween or maybe it was on the 2nd. So wherever this falls based on your time zone, that's what you'd want to look back at and say, okay, what was I up to? Or if you did a manifestation practice, you can look up what you wrote down. What are the things that you were hoping to manifest by now, by May 12th? And then, whether you wrote something down or not, you can do a gratitude exercise. If you had written things that you manifested, expressing gratitude, maybe it's journal prompts, maybe it's just to yourself, silently or out loud. Or you can just think about your life. Okay, in the last approximately 6 months. So since the very beginning of November to now, mid-May, what have I accomplished? And taking some time to reflect on that. That's the super high level, honestly taking out a significant portion of the astrology. If you want to fold astrology in, then you would be understanding that Scorpio is a truth seeker. It is very intuitive, as I mentioned. It focuses on emotional depth. There's nothing shallow going on here. It's very, very intense. Water sign. Mars ruled water sign. And there's also a comfort with darkness, with heavier topics, with even some of the, occult stuff and things that we're talking about. So back on November 1st, if you were manifesting and you decided to use the Scorpio energy, then maybe you were manifesting something that was picking up on what Scorpio represents overall, and or looking at your chart. So back then you would have been looking at 9 degrees of Scorpio. So for me, it's in my 5th house. So I could be saying, okay, so in my 5th house, this is representing dating, play, creativity, children, just like expression in different forms. And so I could be saying, okay, what do I want to manifest in that area of my life? And maybe how do I want to incorporate some of the Scorpio energy in it as well? And that's what I would have written down. on that new moon. And then on the full moon, on the 12th, I can look back at it and say, all right, well, how have I integrated just a little bit more of that Scorpio energy? How have I manifested any of the things that I had hoped to for this area of my life? I was in the middle of a huge transformation, very true. I'm a Scorpio with Taurus moon. Yeah. So Taurus moon, depending on the degree that it was at, Misty, it also means that it was in opposition. So it would have been challenging your moon in some capacity. Your natal moon could have been especially activated if it was anywhere in opposition to that 9 degrees of Scorpio new moon, or this upcoming full moon at 22. So I would check both of them. So wherever your degree point is for your natal Taurus moon, I would check that. And then if you're Scorpio, same thing with your sun. So what degree is your sun relative to the new moon and the full moon? So you have an opportunity for like 2 different activations whenever there's a full moon and a new moon in either Taurus or Scorpio. Moon's at 20. Yeah, so then that means that this full moon that's coming up is within 2 degrees, so it's definitely going to be activated. Sun's at 25. Yeah, so that one is, yeah, both of those are in the orb for this full moon, and they would not be for the new moon that happens. So really this upcoming one is the one that would it activates your sun and activates your moon, in addition to it just being a big energy portal. Really, it's like a great checkpoint, because if you think about it, it's like every single month you have an opportunity to look back approximately 6 months ago and say, all right, well, how have I grown? How am I different? What have I received? And it's just like, even if you don't do a daily gratitude practice, being able to do that at minimum once, sometimes twice a month, I think is just a nice little practice to sit, take a few minutes and look back. So as I mentioned, suggested practices for this: gratitude journaling. You can also connect with water because Scorpio is a water sign. Full moons are about releasing. So it's a culmination, it's a release. And because it's in this emotional sign, it could be, how am I releasing any pent up or hidden, very Scorpio, any hidden emotions? How can I have those come to the surface, be revealed as true, and let those out? So it could be expression of things that you have been keeping buried or hidden, something tied to emotions in any capacity. So lots of different options. Mercury squaring Pluto. So when you have a square and it goes exact, it means that it's 90 degrees. So if you think about what is a square, can't do it. Square. When you have a square, each of the angles are 90 degrees. So when a planet is aspecting another planet and it is squaring, then it means it is 90 degrees away when you look at the chart. That's why being able to look at a chart where you can see the degree points matters, because then you can actually identify it by looking at the numbers. And that's where, when you're looking at your natal chart and it has all those lines in the middle, like the red and the blue lines and whatever, those are indicating all the aspects. So if it's a sextile, trine, square, opposition, conjunct. And I talk about all of that in my level 3 reading. So again, it's something you kind of have to build up to because it's so much more complicated. And Pluto is always retrograde for like half the year. So it's not like it's quote unquote a big deal, because these outer planets, their retrogrades are so long that, it's something to be aware of and it's important to note. But I didn't kind of do a retrospective to talk about that in this class. But yeah, I did write it down. I didn't even have to do the math. I wrote down in my own notes that it was on Sunday. So this retrograde period, for context, started on the 4th, and it will be going until October 13th. So as you can see, it's going from May to October. That is a long time. So in this period of time, you have Pluto, which represents power, transformation, death, and rebirth. And that's in retrograde, and retrogrades are healing periods. So they're all about revisiting, reviewing, redoing. Any words that you can think of, that's a retrograde. So Pluto is like looking back at, power dynamics, things like that in the Aquarius area of your chart, and that's going from 3 back to 1 degrees. Mercury, as I mentioned before, is talking about the mind, it's talking about communication. And when it's squaring, it's tension and it's teaching you a lesson about something. So it's like, ooh, this feels a little bit uncomfortable, but I'm going to learn something on the other side. So this square goes exact Eastern time, 1:23 p.m. on the 12th, which is Monday. And that's happening at 3 degrees. And that's because Pluto's stationed retrograde at 3 degrees and it moves very, very slowly. So it's going to take all of that time, all of those months to go back to 1 degrees and then to go forward to 3 degrees again. And that whole process is many, many months. We're assessing the impact of those changes, of that transformation. We're talking about it, we're thinking about it. And because there is some sort of a lesson to be learned, we want to be mindful. Mercury, I want to be mindful of what's going on, what we're saying, what we're thinking about it, because we don't want to speak too soon. We can allow this transformation to happen and then maybe reflect on it afterwards or talk about it afterwards as the square, energy dissipates a little bit. So there could be some tension going on, a little bit of unease or like an inflection point as something is cropping up in this area of something that you're thinking about, something you're communicating about, something that's being shared with you as relates to the early degrees of Aquarius, and then these ideas of transformation, death and rebirth. Death meaning it could be literal death, and it could be death of an idea or concept. So it's like a shedding. So we're talking about death and rebirth. It's endings and beginnings in whatever form those take. Aquarius is looking at innovation, it's the collective, it's people, it's humanitarianism, technology. How do we make sure that everyone has access to things? It's structures, but it's how do we break down structures? How do we build new ones that work for more people? I would be looking at 11th house and 8th house. And those two areas are networking, friends, social media, like connections with community. So I'm thinking about, talking about how I'm connecting with people. And then there's some sort of tension and lessons to be learned with 8th house, thinking about how I'm earning money, thinking as in like receiving money from other people or inheriting money, thinking about my mental health. How's that going? How am I balancing my networking with all of that? And looking at some of these same ideas. There's death, rebirth, there's transformation. Ideas are inherently built into the 8th house.